Hi, today we are with Madelaine Weiss. It's been a long time. I really wish to talk to her, and she said, "Wait until I have my book." And her book is ready. Is in
Certainly.
pre-order. I already pre-ordered your book because I'm very excited to start reading.
Thank you.
Uh, Welcome to my show, Authors Promotion, and I'm so happy to have you for the second time. The first time we've been on Summit, right?
Mhm.
For the winter show and Christmas show, and today is your own show.
Thank you.
So welcome, and thank
It's
you
a
for
pleasure to
being
be here with you and your audience. And I have lots of goodies to share, so I'm excited to be here. And I thank
beautiful,
you for having
beautiful.
me. Yeah.
So, Madelaine, I know you're a licensed psychotherapist and mindset expert. Tell me about your book because I'm very excited to read it. Unfortunately, I couldn't order the whole thing because it's only in pre order. When
Yes.
do you publish it?
The publication date is actually March 10th, which is 2 days from now. The We're having a one of those pre-order promo sales. So it's the Kindle is 99 cents right now. And everybody is welcome to hop on and grab one of those. And that will be available to read actually on Wednesday, so I'm told. So fingers crossed.
So, I don't need to wait so long.
No, you don't for $1, but if you wait longer, it'll cost more than $1. So,
I know.
yeah, right.
So, and your book is in very good shape right now. I see it's a new release and you have a great ranking. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
First, tell me about yourself, Madelaine. What are you doing? And I know you are psychotherapist, but what you exactly do? And then tell me about your book.
So I help high achievers, which is almost everybody I know, people who want to do well. I think that term is misunderstood. I think so many of us want to achieve on behalf of ourselves and our families and people we love who love us and employees counting on us and so on, the best we can. I have a backstory that I would love to share with you if you would like to hear that.
Of
So,
course.
oh,
Yeah.
all right, this is my why. They call that the why, right? So, when I was 15 years old, and this is the first page of the book, by the way, when I was 15 years old, my father died suddenly of a stroke. And I was a very feisty little girl. My avatar is Madeleine from the children's book. To the tiger in the zoo, Madeleine just said poo poo, and so did I too many times to my dad. So I was what they called grounded a lot. And I thought for a long time, I always like to say, I thought he died of me until one day in the cemetery, in my mother's shining moment as a mom, when I broke down with her, she said, "No, honey, it wasn't you. It was work. It was work stress." And actually, there are reported to be 120,000 deaths a year from work related stresses. So I feel like if I can help one little boy or girl's mommy or daddy or anybody at all for that matter have more hours in the day. My dad went to work at 5 and came home at 10, more hours in the day, more peace of mind, more energy, more freedom, more fulfillment, maintaining and enjoying satisfaction and success in all areas, because everything's connected to everything else. So the gains we make in one area affects other areas too. So in all areas of their lives without burning out. So that's what I do, and that's why I think I do it. Because, I started out in a biochemistry laboratory. I worked for the USDA Biological Control Lab plant, with bugs, and in a cardiac catheter research laboratory with animals. And I just kept feeling this tug toward the people, and I think it's kind of a no-brainer. Why that might be. So that's what I do. And I asked myself, this is an answer to another question that I think you asked. I asked myself about a half a year ago, so what is it that you're doing with these people that's working? Like, what are you doing? And the reason that I asked myself that is I'm a very hungry learner. So I studied Advaita Vedanta, pre-Hindu tradition, which I still study to this day. That's been for over 20 years. I studied psychology and evolutionary psychology and brain science. I have an MBA, so I studied it from business development and organizational behavior. I mean, I went at it every which way just to learn as much as I could about what makes us tick and what's in the way. And when I asked myself this question, you've got a pretty big, fat, diverse toolkit here. What are you doing? And also my clients are also different from each other too. And I came up with these 5 elements, these 5 steps that I think are common to all of them who do so well. And we just happen to have one here.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah. Oh, you already have your order copy. That's great.
So if you go online, like if you go on Amazon and you look for the book, you have to put the dots in, and the dots are the 5 steps.
All right.
So, okay.
So, I know something. You have lots of skills, and you were a really great learner whole your life.
Yeah. Well, no, I was a terrible student early in my life.
Probably when you have awakening call after your father death. Yeah, I see everybody has a mission, and in some point of the life, we decide that enough. We need to stand and do our mission. That's what you thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. And Madelaine,
Pinty, it isn't like, I don't know I don't think it's like you go and find it. You clear the way.
exactly.
Or at least my clients do. They settle down the noise inside. That's so noisy inside and outside of the head, and we can't do too much about the noise out there, but there's so much we can do about the noise in here, and we settle that down, and what you call the mission bubbles up. So you don't have to go find your purpose. You just have to get out of its way.
He's there already.
Right.
Is calling you for years, and then one day, I think some inspiration, like strong inspiration, have you to do what you do right now exactly, and especially writing a book. Because even for me, I wrote 3 books, and for the first one, it took me some time to write it because I was very beginner, and I didn't know if I'm gonna be a writer, how can I be there. There are lots of unknown area as a writer that I didn't know, and I didn't have any support that time. I didn't know how to discover it, but finally I did it. I published it, and the first time was not a success because I didn't know the strategy, how to follow it. That's why it took me 2 years to learn exactly the strategy, how to become bestseller, how
Who taught you that?
to stand out. I was in uh, I was in a community. I joined a community and I learned by the course.
You're
And
making
now I teach it. I teach it for others.
There's something called scaffolding that I think educators use that word. And scaffolding is the people along the way that kind of held you while you struggled along, who created like your community with a
Yes.
safe learning environment for you. And
Yes.
when people say things like self-healing or self-made, my reaction to that is always, there is no such thing. There was always somebody somewhere who, I have something to show you. You ready? She's in my book. She now hangs on my wall. This is, oops,
Oh,
this is Grandmom Rose.
oh, nice.
I never met her.
Beautiful. Oh,
She died before I was born. But because I was grounded all the time, my mother wanted me to dust and vacuum while I was in the house anyway. So I would get to her face with the feather duster, and I would stand there and I would look at her and in my head talk to her because there was no one else there. And this is all in the book. And I realized that the person who supported you in your community, the person doesn't even have to be alive. I describe her as she always listened. Of course, she had no choice because she was dead, but she always listened. She never turned away. She never criticized me. She was like the perfect listener. And the other thing was that I heard these wonderful, wonderful stories about her from people who did know her before she died. And so it just kind of fleshed her out, so to speak. And so what I'm saying is, it doesn't have to be, people feel sort of limited because they didn't have the parents they might have picked, let's say. But you don't have to.
that's a beautiful story. I like that.
You don't have
I have the same, almost the same thing.
uh-huh.
Actually, my dad had an aunt, and she was an inspiration of one of my book. So, for Naturally Conceived, the third book,
Yeah.
one chapter is dedicated to her because she was an amazing woman, and I learned a lot from her before she died. Before she's like so you see, as you see, right, yes, you should have some inspiration. It's not only her. I had lots of other case
You have
studies.
to be open.
Yes.
You have to be open. We have to be open to the idea that it can come from anywhere. So the summer after my father died, they shipped me away to summer camp, and I would write letters. We actually wrote with a pen and paper to my Aunt Jeannie, who was my father's sister, and she would talk to me about what a beautiful writer I was.
Wow.
And when I think about what my strong suit might be in terms of all this, let's say, PR stuff I've been forcing myself to do for the book, it's chatting and writing. The TV stuff, not so much. The small sound bites, but being able to really express yourself fully on paper or in a longer
It's
segment
beautiful.
like this is so nice. And I think Aunt Jeannie had a lot to do with that. So I invite all your listeners, I invite everyone to think about somebody you might not have given a lot of weight to the person's presence, but somebody gave you gifts that you might not even be aware. I honestly did not know what a factor Grandmom Rose was until I wrote this book and it started coming out. I almost put that picture in the book.
Interesting.
it's getting a little crazy, so I didn't, but yeah.
So let's just go for a few second break and we come back again.
Okay.
Please subscribe to Panta Calhoun Transition channel and order my book Rules of Change for the Better. Tune up your mood and transform your life to reach your biggest dreams.
Great title.
All right. So, Madelaine, I need to know more about what you're doing exactly with your mindset expert coaching. And because I have a lot of audience need this direction.
Okay, so G.R.E.A.T. The G, this is the 5-step strategy. The G is for grounding. When people come to me, they don't necessarily believe it could be great. They just want some of the pain. Please make some of the pain stop. But I know it can be better than that, that they don't have to be troubleshooting their pain all the time or treating the pain all the time. They can set up a life where there's not so much of that. And being grounded, as you know, from in that mindset really increases the potential for that to come about. And it's not really possible without it. The R, so the first line of the book is a great life depends on a great fit between who we are and the environments in which we work and live. So if you're going to, and by the way, was that not always true? Survival of the fittest, adapt or die. It was always true for us as organisms and then humans that our fit with the environment was the whole thing. So it's as true today as it ever was, and that's the premise of this. So if a great fit depends on who we are, a great life depends on the fit between who we are, blah, blah, blah. So we have to know who we are.
Exactly.
So right? So otherwise we find ourselves in all kinds of environments that might be good for someone else, but they're not good for us because that's not who we are.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right? Like, duh. So R is for recognizing who we are. So that has to come right after believing great things can happen. I can have a great life. And the first step is first I got to know who I am because I can't be picking environments until I do. The E, and this is the fun part, is for exploring. Once people have a sense of what makes them tick, they can go exploring into different industries, different life circumstances, different parts of the country. I had a doctor, pick up and move his whole family to New Zealand. He didn't stop being a doctor. He just thought that would be a better environment for him to practice medicine. And he was all excited, and so were they, about the adventure. So he explored. He's a great example of how far out you can go exploring, and nothing is off the table. And William James said, action, A for action, G-R-E-A for action. William James said, action doesn't guarantee happiness, but there's no happiness without action. So the reason I morphed from straight psychotherapy, psychodynamic psychotherapy, I'm pretty classically trained in that, to coaching, is because of the action orientation. So at the end of all of our sessions, there are action steps always. Not so big that they overwhelm and shut us down, but big enough that they excite the motivational centers of the brain. The brain goes, something different's happening here. This is fun, and it keeps going one foot in front of the other, one step at a time, until before you know it, you're there. And then when you're there, did you read the Big Leap?
Big Leap? No. Who wrote it?
I'm going to say Gay Hendricks. I hope I have that right. Anyway, it's the Big Leap. It's a wonder. It's old, but the idea is that we all have an upper limit. And when we start to become like looking like maybe we're going to exceed the upper limit of our idea of success for ourselves, like when you were writing a book and you're wondering, like, who am I to be doing this kind of a thing. That's very, very common. People call it the imposter syndrome. You're out of your comfort zone in a great way, but we're out of our comfort zone, and the organism again wants to be comfortable. So there's resistance to the change, even though the change might be spectacular. The woman, Jen Sincera, who wrote the Badass books, which are so fun, she says that when you start reaching that upper limit, all hell breaks loose. She said the refrigerator breaks down, the washing machine overflows, and anyone I've said that to who's been there has said, oh my God, that's exactly what happened. I just cracked a tooth as I'm launching the book. Okay. So there's this resistance to change, and the T is for tackling the resistance to the change.
I like it.
That's what we do, and that was in hindsight. So like this was already happening. I reverse engineered it. I want to know, what are they doing that's getting them from just dragging, they, just dragged in the door like so miserable, and walked out upright with a smile. And it was,
Actually, this book, I already showed you, Rules of Change for the Better. It's
yeah.
about change as well. That's the book I told you. Finally, I got the bestseller with the book, but I learned so many things through writing this book, because it's my personal stories. And I think tackling change or adapt to changes have 5 stages. I call it, you initiate it because you need to have a great inspiration, unless you will lose it in the middle. Second, you need to plan. Third, yes, you need to have action. Then you need to have maturity level. Even if you you act upon your changes, again you need to be mature. Yeah, other than that, you lose it. What does that mean? Let me give you some example. If somebody quit this smoking, if he doesn't learn how to practice it, like how to practice, get the habit and stay on that habit for a longer time,
Yes.
after sometimes he get back to smoking again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I like to know about your case studies. Because I see you have a lot of case studies. One of them is your grandmother. What
Well,
are others?
yeah. So I set the book up in 10 chapters. The,
Yes.
the beginning of every chapter is a quirky story from my own life. Then it goes on to, there's a lot of science in there. There are so many citations because I love that stuff. So the middle of each chapter is the research and, the science and the theory, and trying to understand what the heck is going on with us. And then at the end of every chapter, so there are 10 of them, there is a case example on the theme of that chapter. So, for example, there's a whole chapter on money, there's a whole chapter on time. At the end of those chapters, it'll be a case example of someone who was struggling with that particular issue. And then after the case example, there's an exercise that I prepared for everybody to be able to play with it with themselves on money or time or power or play, or my favorite, other people.
I like case studies. I always
Yep.
use them in my book
Yeah.
because I believe real case studies show people that there are some real people struggling with the same thing they have. And that's why it's so promising.
Yeah. That people actually do this. That's where the belief, I think,
Yes.
then that this, you're right, that this actually can happen.
Yeah. So tell me about your gift or any freebies you have, any
Yeah.
program? Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So, in addition to the 99-cent sale, on my website at madeleineWeiss.com, there's a when you get down past my carrying on about my book, which I will remove soon, right under that is this box that says complimentary mind management exercises. And there are numbers of exercises that people can just pull off of there. You put your name in and your email address, and they'll be sent to you. Two that come to mind as my favorites. One is power breathing, because my clients use this and find it just exactly what I said that was, is powerful. It's
Mm,
really powerful. So whenever we're feeling agitated or suffering, we don't want to make any decisions from there. We don't want the suffering mind to be making any decision. So
yeah.
this, it's actually polyvagal breathing. It stimulates the polyvagal nerve, which takes us out of fight, flight, freeze, and puts us into the higher executive brain. And that's who you want in charge. So this power breathing exercise does that. The other one that I think people find really useful that I would recommend here tonight is something called focus and release. People, we humans, have a very hard time putting one thing down to move to another. We don't really put the thing down when we go like from one meeting to another meeting, or from a task we're doing to another task, or from a task like you were making your pizzas task to the thing that comes next. And the consequence of that is that, like this big heavy sack of potato or rocks or whatever you want to think of it as, we're carrying it around all day long because we never put anything down. And then we wonder why we're tired and cranky because we're carrying. When I was, I learned this actually in the Veda Vedanta, um, the first weekend that I went on with them. And they had us all, there's this gorgeous antique home, and they had us all working on the home, and I was painting the woodwork. And I mean, there's woodwork all over the house, right? And so they said to me that we were finished now. I said, I'm a finished. I'm a finished. I just started. I'm over here, and I have all of that to do. I'll I'll be there soon. I'll be there as soon as I'm done. And they're like, no, you're finished and you'll be there now. And that was when I first started to learn about how hard it is to come to rest and to move into a new space
I like it.
without the clutter and the weight of what came before it. You can always choose to go back some other time if they wanted me to, but if it's my own home, I can always choose to go back some other time. But right then, we were moving on to something else. And I think that really makes a big difference to learn how to put,
Yeah.
and the polyvagal breathing, which is only 3 breaths and it takes less than 30 seconds. If you combine them, so if you use the breathing in between one activity and the next.
Beautiful. That's why I have I said I have 5 stages in change. One of them is gap. So you need some gap
Yes.
to just breathe or realize where you stand, where you want to do,
Center.
especially for what I'm doing, like fertility coaching. Everybody is so agitated because they gonna have their baby desperately. But I said you need at least 3 to 4 months for you to get rid of the toxin. You need to have the better immunity and realize what is the problem with your body. So you shouldn't rush into your change if your body is not ready, your mindset is not ready, right? So
Basically
that's
telling
why.
them to honor
Exactly.
their biology. Yeah.
Sorry.
To honor their biology.
Exactly, exactly. Because the nature knows
Yes.
exactly when it happens, when you force it, it's not going to happen. So you have to be relaxed, release, use your technique for breathing, because I have the same technique for breathing. Not maybe it's not exactly like yours, but strong breathing is a really great
Mhm.
habit
Oh,
that
yeah.
can give you a lot of, like, you can meditate with breathing.
I,
Release yourself
I
from
catch myself when I'm not breathing. I notice now when I have something interesting to tell you that I think would be really useful for the kind of work that you do
Yeah,
specifically.
okay.
There's a book called How the Mind Works. It's
Mhm.
a classic by Steven Pinker, who's a Harvard linguist, I think. And in his book, he talks about the biology that you were just talking about, that every single one of us, like the women, are biologically programmed to wean their offspring. We all think that's something we decide to do up here. But what he was saying is that's something we're all biologically programmed to do to get ready, which is exactly what you're talking about, for the next child. Where that is helpful for my work is that I extrapolate from that is that everybody in an organization is looking around thinking somebody else is getting something that belonged to them because every one of us got cut off.
Mhm.
People don't know these things because we just don't know these things. But when you think about how the biology affects the behaviors and understanding that we're all programmed to think that someone else has more, that someone else has it better. When you know this, you can say to yourself, oh, that again, and not act on it in ways that really don't improve anything. So in your case, what you're telling the mothers is exactly what he says in this book about how the mind works. So you may,
Beautiful.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here.
Well,
We run
thank
out
you.
of the time, but I really wish to continue with you. Such a great psychotherapist we have here who is mindset expert and has a great book to offer. And I can't wait. I really can't wait to read your book.
I'll be very interested to hear what you think because you
Yeah,
sound like
sure,
you know
sure.
about these things too.
Uh,
So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Take care.